Hello my friends and fellow VEDSies, it is day 20 and today I want to talk about the show My Adventures with Superman. It's a WB animated series that was released this summer looking at the origins of Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen as they are interns at the Daily Planet establishing themselves in their careers as Clark Kent learns how to become Superman. As someone who is by no means an expert but does genuinely enjoy old school superhero vibes, I had a lot of thoughts about what they did with this particular version, and so I figured I would share them with y'all today. So what do I think that they did particularly well with this series? For one, the characters are super likable. Almost instantly you know who everybody is, and they're very engaging and well designed and well acted and just very engaging and likable characters. The series made a genuine effort to keep things fresh and interesting and make diversions from the typical Superman canon to allow for new and different types of stories. It sort of reminded me of how every time they do a new Spider-Man reboot, they try and make a new twist on it. This felt very akin to that, where it's still the same core, but we're playing around with the pieces to try and give it its own identity. I love how characters react to situations, which sounds weird, but everyone reacts in a way that feels appropriate to the situation. It never feels like people are getting upset for the drama when obviously they should just take a minute and get over it, but it also doesn't feel like characters' issues are getting brushed over for the sake of streamlining the narrative. The fights are really well done in this. They are very clear and compelling. You know what things can do and where people are. It sounds like it's something that is simple, and it maybe should be, but a simple thing done well can honestly be the most impressive. And the fact that I could keep track of everything in all of the fights and that they were so well done and well animated and well thought out really was impressive to me. In general, the art style was just so good. It was so pretty, definitely anime inspired, but just absolutely gorgeous, especially the backgrounds and the lighting of this. Oh my gosh, it was a treasure trove to look at. But I think what I liked most about it was how sincere the show is. You know, Clark literally saves cats from trees, and all of the characters are unabashedly themselves, and there's so much heart to the story, and it doesn't feel cheesy. It feels very earned. It takes a lot of work to make something genuinely sincere. And in the past couple of decades, Superman especially has been so twisted in the sense that we keep wanting to make dark Supermans and evil Supermans and bad Supermans and apathetic Supermans and all of these different takes on the character. And while that's interesting to a certain extent, it's also really nice and really refreshing to see a Superman show that's just like, no, Superman is good. Superman is doing his best. Superman doesn't want to hurt people. He wants to help people. And the people of Metropolis love Superman. They might get scared sometimes, but they love their hero. So one of the things that I really liked about the series was that a lot of stuff stayed true to what I typically associate with Superman and what I usually want to see from Superman. You know, we have sweet, dorky Clark who is Superman and just wants to be a good person and wants to help people, literally the guy who saves cats from trees. And Lois, who is so determined to find the truth and is so down to fight that she will sabotage her own opportunities to reach the top and will literally jump off of a building to prove her point. And Jimmy Olsen as the wonderful, supportive best friend. In addition, a lot of DC characters that people will recognize make appearances. Obviously, there are your typical Superman side characters like the Kents and Perry, but also other established DC characters like Vicky Vale and Amanda Waller. In addition, they definitely tackled the fear of Superman and the xenophobic ways that it can come out. Tied in with that, there was actually a moment where someone suggested that he try to be normal, that I read sort of like a go back into the closet allegory. I'm not sure how intentional that was, or if that is typically part of Superman's deal. I mean, it's sort of part of every superhero with a secret identities deal, but I'm not sure how much that is a Superman specific thing. But I thought it was really interesting. However, they did change stuff. One of the most notable to me was that Clark doesn't know how to Superman or anything about Krypton because Jor-El's program doesn't speak English, which makes sense, but I don't think that is usually a factor. In addition, Krypton's vibe is a bit different than normal. It makes sense, but it definitely wasn't what I expected. Tied in with that, in season 1, we didn't see General Zod. We also didn't see Lex Luthor, which I thought was interesting, but I'm glad that they saved them for later. There were a bunch of other villains who I'm not really as familiar with, and so getting to see them was really cool, and it means that we can amp up to the more iconic big bads. They gave Jimmy a whole conspiracy theorist thing, which was fun. It gives him a little more to work with, and it immediately updates the character and the setting into a more modern time frame. There also seemed to be a very genuine effort to create diversity in this show. You know, with how old Superman is, of course the characters have traditionally been depicted as white characters, but they definitely updated that, including the core cast, which was really cool. And Metropolis feels like a city with lots of diversity in it, which I thought was a very nice touch. There is also a multi-dimensional league of Lois Lanes, which is fine. I mean, I get it, multiverse is big right now, and this is probably the best thing you could have done with it, in my opinion, but it was not my favorite part of the show. One thing I really did like, though, was that the secret identity is revealed fairly early. And I love hiding a secret identity. I mean, I was in the Merlin fandom, but I think letting Lois and Jimmy in relatively early allows for a lot of new types of stories to be told that we typically don't get because we're too busy hiding the secret identity. It's a really wonderful return to form. Also, this might just be that I don't consume enough Superman-specific stuff, but damn, this kryptonite seemed like especially potent. They were not messing around with how much it fucks with him, and I really liked it. I thought it was cool. The visuals that they created around it were dope. I'm just not sure if that's normal. I feel like usually it's not as visceral, at the very least. And so I'm curious to hear if that's just a thing of adaptations and in the comics it is like that, or if it has been like that at some point. I'm not sure, but I thought it was really interesting. However, there are things that the show doesn't do perfectly, or things that I think it could improve on. One of which is the tone. I think they need to find a better way to balance the comedy and the drama, because sometimes the wackiness could be a little jarring in these very serious scenes. I don't know if they need to get better at finding a middle ground, or if it's a timing issue or a pacing thing. I just know that it did distract on occasion. The other thing that I think could be done better is Jimmy's arc. Now, I'm glad that they gave him this sort of third wheel feeling ignored by his friends arc, and I am glad that Clark and Lois had to seek him out and apologize. But after they do that, he does sort of become the third wheel again, if not by the characters, then by how the show is written and drawn. He's kind of left out sometimes. Which is a shame, because the trio is what really drew me into it. I love the friendship between the three of these characters. But I don't know, maybe this is going to be an ongoing issue that they have to pursue. Maybe we're gonna get corruption arc Jimmy Olsen. That could certainly be interesting. I don't know if they have a plan for that or not. I just know that at the moment it feels like something that the trio needs to work on, and therefore the showrunners need to work on. My Adventures with Superman is a really promising show that captures the heart of why people love Superman while also adding some twists to keep it fresh. However, there are definitely things that could be done to improve the show that mostly revolve around pacing. WB has already announced that they are planning on having a season 2, so I'm hoping that a lot of these things can be resolved as they work on season 2, and I'm super excited to see their takes on some of the classic bad guys that we all know. If you like classic Superman or superhero stories in the vein of early 2000s superhero movies, then I think you'll really like My Adventures with Superman. And my friends and fellow VEDSies, I'll see you tomorrow.